All right, for our final segment of the podcast, we're going to talk about our films of the week. What did you see this week, David?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick out three selections from what I watched this week.
Out of your
Um,
umpteen movies again. You see so many movies.
I try.
Man.
I've been actually I got a couple newer ones I watched from last year, but I've been watching a lot of stuff that are classics as well. But I'm gonna touch on a couple of new first time views and one that I watched again that I enamored with. But
Hmm.
the first one, first time view, I watched Villains, which came out 2019, directed by Dan Burke and Robert Olson, which I believe first time directing. Um, but they call it a thriller comedy starring Bill Skarsgård, as everybody knows from It.
Yeah.
Um, Maka, I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right, Monroe, um, who was in It Follows, which is a really good movie if you haven't seen it, and The Guest, which is another really good movie. Um, Jeffrey Donovan and Kyra Sedgwick. And what this film is basically Bill Skarsgård and Monroe. They are kind of a Bonnie and Clyde-ish type characters. They rob a liquor store, the gas station. I'm sorry, and then ironically, as they're trying to get away, they run out of gas. Um, so they're trying to find a way to get out from the situation, and they see that they're kind of out in the boondocks, and they see that there's a house, and they decide to go in this house and they see that there's a car in the garage and they break into this house. But they break into the wrong house. Turns out this house is owned by a couple of sadistic killers.
Oh,
And
wait, this isn't giving away anything, is it?
no, this is stuff you learn right away.
Okay.
So the whole film is there is some comedy involved, so I guess this would be considered maybe a dark comedy. But yeah, it's just about a couple of criminals who break into the wrong house of people who are much worse criminals than they are. Um, I enjoyed this movie. It's not really bringing much to the table, but the ensemble cast, it's just acted very well. Jeffrey Donovan plays and Kyra Sedgwick. They're both very Southern charm psychos. So they have this real nice demeanor to them, but with this really terrible darkness behind them, and it's just acted so strong. If it wasn't for the cast, this film would be very average. But yeah, it was a fun watch. It's not going to stimulate your brain very much, but you're going to have fun watching it. So check out Villains.
Yeah, when you said the way you're describing the story, I feel like I've seen that sort of story done a couple times where like the villains stumble upon a house with worse villains present. What
Yeah.
was that movie? That main
Oh,
actor.
Don't Breathe,
Don't Breathe. Yeah, so Don't Breathe
which
was
is
the other
very
one.
strong film. I am sad I don't remember the name.
That one was it was such a good twist. And this isn't even on our list where when I'm talking about it, but it was really good. And oh my gosh, I saw it in theaters and um it wasn't like in a very where the patrons respect each other's ticket prices and as soon as the shit hit the fan, everyone just like, oh no. It's just like, oh gross. And it was really good. And I was like, holy cow, I did not see that coming. And it's really good. If
Yeah,
anyone hasn't seen Don't Breathe as an honorable mention in today's films of the week, that's a good one too.
yeah, it's directed by the Alvarez who did the Evil Dead remake.
Right.
There's also a film called, or there's a show called, oh shit, it's that Netflix show. We spoke about it before. The End of the Fucking World, which
Oh,
has a few episodes that are that's similar to this premise as well. But it had a good cast, so it was an enjoyable watch.
okay. Yeah, I'd like to see that guy in not clown makeup, so I would like to see what that guy does. Um, my other movies that I'm trying to catch up on, I want to see Rise of Skywalker in theaters. But before I do so, and this is something I haven't done in my life, is seen all of the movies in a particular order. There are some of the movies I still haven't seen, like the two before Rise. But the last week I watched Rogue One and Episode 4. So the order that I found that was best online that I decided to settle with. I know some people, man, this is such a geek thing that people argue about. I asked one of my friends, and he was just like, "No, you got to see the way they're released in theaters." And I was like, but I don't like, I don't want to see it like that, because it was like, if you see it the way it was released in theaters, the Star Wars movies, it's like you don't know the reveal, and
Yeah.
the reveal about, well, in case people don't know, I won't say it, but stop. Oh, stop. No, what? It's not even you.
Uh,
For everyone's benefit, I just bleeped that out. So just in
if you don't
post
know,
edit.
that's like the biggest spoiler in the history of spoilers.
It is,
Like,
right?
there's
It's so
other
sad.
movies that quote that.
It is, but you never know. Someone might
If
just, stumble on
if
this is
you've
their
ever
first
seen
podcast.
Tommy Boy,
So aside from that, I was not really concerned with hitting that. So I was just like, well, and I didn't want to start. Some people were like, well, then start with episode one, two, three. But then the theory behind that is that it really plays off as Anakin being the star of that, Darth Vader being the star of the whole series, and that it's like, all this sympathy for him. And so I was like, well, the most honest way that really talks about the saga is what I felt was to start with Rogue One. Rogue One is a movie that takes place immediately before Episode 4, and then to go in Episode 5, and then break off and go to Episode 1, 2, and 3, and then come back to 6, and then do, I think it was Solo, do the Han Solo the story. Even some people were like, it's not really necessary, but whatever. I just wanted to get them all in there. And then what is it? 7, 8, and then Rise is 9. So that's where I'm going with it. I saw Rogue One. I really liked it. I really liked it when I saw it in theaters a long time ago, but I rewatched it. That was really good. Episode 4, man, some of those lines are a little tiresome between Harrison Ford and Carrie. Oh my God,
Fisher.
what's her? Carrie
See,
Fisher.
I know this shit, and I've never seen one of these films.
It's been so done, like in all these shows when they make fun of it or do parodies, and like it's very old now. I mean, it's been decades now. But is Carrie Fisher, man, the two of them in that movie, it's so just her voice is so grating. I said this in the review, I think, when she's like, "Come on, guys!" Like she's just like getting mad at them when they're like trying to get
Harrison
it
Ford
together.
looks like he's about to die.
Holy cow, that guy's been 60 since he was born. That guy isn't, he's not a guy that, well, now he definitely looks older, but he was like the guy who's aged and then stopped aging for like three or four decades, like
Well,
since Indiana
he
Jones.
he was a middle-aged archaeologist like 30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years after his prime, in his prime. Yeah, and how many movies of those were there? Like three or four, right? Temple of Doom,
Four, I think
Matrix.
four, yeah.
Yeah.
And Crystal
Um,
Skull, which is one of the worst action movies ever made.
I can't believe what they did with that out of nowhere. That's going to be on one of the worst, maybe on the worst list when we bring Alex back. I was messaging him about it. I was like, we got to pick a day. But yeah, so I saw 4. I wasn't as impressed, and there were some scenes where they were just like dilly-dallying around. There's this lightsaber fight that was really weak and slow, going with Obi-Wan and Darth, and They're just standing at the opposite end of the hangar. They're like, "Whoa, look at that over there!" And there's like nothing happening. The stormtroopers are hilarious. I love hearing their voices. Like, "Yeah, he's over there. Get him!" And like they all sound the same. It's just hilarious. These one-shot kills. It doesn't matter where they shoot him. They shoot him in the chest, and he's dead. They like shoot him in the head, they just fall over and collapse. It was ridiculous. The stormtroopers are so stupid. I don't know why they invested all that time in them and money. Um, but yeah, that was it. It was still worth it. I still enjoyed it. I was looking for all the. Again, I'm a spoiler free, but I was looking for any Luke and Leia kissing scenes, but they were all two cheek kisses. I counted. And then, but there was all that like, is there tension? Isn't there tension? Because they know where the story is going. So it's like, but there was Chewie was more like a pet, really. I saw him as more of a sidekick for Solo, but in the movie, he like pets his head at one point, and then at the end, when they get medals, at the end of the movie, when they get medals from Leia, Chewie didn't get a medal. They gave one to Luke, they gave one to Solo, and everyone turns around and they're all cheering. I'm like, and Chewie's like, that thing he does at the end, and he doesn't have a medal. Like, what?
That's kind of racist.
He just has a condition, this hair condition. But he was fighting. He was flying a ship. He was shooting guns. Like, what the hell? R2-D2 should have got a medal. C-3PO should have got a medal. Like, what the hell? That was bullshit. Spielberg needs to redo that movie and put in medals. Like he took out guns, replaced them with walkie-talkies.
Big CGI medal for a Wookiee.
Yeah, like a what is it? Like an extra scene when that's redone. All right, go with your next.
So, since we're done with the Star Wars talk, this film, I'm kind of upset I missed. This could have possibly been in my top films of 2019 if I would have saw it earlier. But I watched Zhang Yimou's Shadow, which is a Chinese wuxia film. It's if Zhang's work, you'd probably recognize. He did Hero and House of the Flying Daggers.
I did see House of Flying Daggers, yeah.
And Hero with Jet Li.
Yeah, I saw Hero too.
But this film, it's one of those Middle Ages Chinese films about warring factions. The title Shadow, what that really is a body double. There is a commander of an army, and there is a dispute about a city with another kingdom. So the commander of this army has always had kind of a double there since he was a kid that no one knows about, that his father trained and that he helped train. And he is now sickly and dying. So this shadow is kind of taken over for him. So it all revolves around the battle for this city. It is a stunning film to look at. It is shot in color, but everything from the set pieces to the costumes, and the costumes are amazing, obviously. It's all black, white, and gray. So the only color you get from this film at all is the skin tone and blood when it's shed.
Oh.
So when you're looking at it, it's just captivating to look at. It's hard to top Hero and House of the Flying Daggers, because those are the ultimate when it comes to this genre of film. But this is definitely close to that level. The battle scenes are amazing. There's also an air of feminine versus masculine, and because a lot, and when you talk about martial arts movement and this is done in martial arts. There's a difference between feminine and masculine movement. Um, so it's the feminine movement is what ends up winning over a much more powerful foe. Um, part there's some parts that are just almost kind of cartoonish, but one of the main weapons are these metal umbrellas that they turned into these weapons. They practiced with these umbrellas against the staff, and they turned them into these metal knived umbrellas that shoot out spikes at people. But the choreography is breathtaking, and just the visuals of this film is breathtaking. But it has that political intrigue, but also the great battle scenes. So if you're into something like Heroes and House of the Flying Daggers, this is a must watch. And I think I gave this film either an 8 or an 8.5. It was definitely one of the better films of 2019 and one of the better Chinese films I've seen in a while.
Would it have gone into the top 10 that you did?
I didn't think deeply about it, but it would definitely have been. It would have definitely been in that list of what I'm trying to cut down to get in the top 10. It definitely had a chance of being there.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say if you ever have a gripe about my decimal system addition to my scores, just so you know, the famous, world-renowned Roger Ebert gave this a 3.5 thumbs out of 4. So don't ask me how he does that with his thumbs, but he did a 3.5. Okay. So clearly there's some genius to this decimal system that I introduced.
Hey, I have no problem with the half points. You're doing like a 6.8.
What did I get? Is that what I did?
You did something like that, a 6.8. Every other thing before that was always a full number or a half number. And you just went with Star Wars. Star Wars started getting like quarter of points and eighths of points.
I'm no idiot to numbers. There's numbers in between there, and I'm well aware they exist. I'm just going to use them.
So you're on a 100 scale now. You're just like Alex.
No, you know what? That's not an insult, sir. He is a brilliant young man. I just have a different scale.
His 98 is just your 9.8. It's the same thing.
9.8. Oh, maybe. Oh, that's clever. Maybe.
He just takes out the whole decimal point. You don't.
Because I like to look smart. Is that what you're trying to say? Jeez, David. This first episode of the year,
fractions.
It's just really turning the shit on Rod's show.
Like this is a 6 5/8.
I will never use fractions. I refuse to believe they exist. No, never fractions. I would love to follow this up with one of the ones that I'm going to talk about, but I want to mention a shitty one first.
Well, I know one you're going to mention. So watch Shadow. It's on Netflix. And I know if you like some of the other films, you'll want to see that.
I do want to see this one because you mentioned it was like Hero, and you said the same director too.
Yeah.
Spies in Disguise, another just masterpiece by Will Smith, voiced by Will Smith. Tom Holland also. It's he gets turned into a pigeon, and Tom Holland loves pigeons. He helps him turn back eventually. It's a nice story. It's nothing to really write home about. I wasn't thinking it was going to be, a home run or anything, but it was definitely fun for the kids. There was a lot of funny scenes for the kids. So if you got kids, definitely take them out to see it before it leaves theaters. It was a lot of fun for them. Don't look into it too much, hope for too much from the plot, but it is very safe too. Like, when it comes to movies nowadays, sometimes like some of them push the envelope with some of the language, like stupid idiot. Like, I have younger kids and I do not want them taking some of this language home with us, or
don't want them calling each other stupid idiots, right?
Yeah, I mean, on top of other stuff, but it's just and sometimes the violence, it gets a bit much with these movies, and if they're not at the right age when they know not to use the stuff or see the stuff, how they're interpreting the stuff. This movie took a say on Tom Holland's character being the scientist, the Q of the James Bond department, who wants to be less violent with the gadgets. So all of his some of his gadgets involve glitter or like fluffy things or like just different ways to apprehend criminals or get the agent out of situations without it being violent and just merciless, like explosions and bombs and things. So it was a different way to look at it. It was fun. The characters, I mean, the actors did well with their voice acting. It was okay. It was a little tired seeing the meek character being portrayed slightly feminine, and I was like, okay, get over it. Like, in opposite for the next movie, I won't mention it now, but there was a trailer during that movie called The Rescue, a Chinese movie, and it was strange because we had this talk before once about how just the masculinity became this, towering like physique and the muscle, and our heroes just have to be this incredibly masculine type of male heroes in movies. They can't just be like, if you saw a skinny figure in an action hero role, it would be a little strange, I think, for the typical American cinema for us to, for it to be believable, right?
Yeah.
And so it was strange for me because I want to see this movie now just to see how Chinese filmmakers do this. But in this Chinese film, it's based on some rescue team. They have to go and rescue, I think, from an oil rig or something, was some of the scenes from the trailer. But they showed the main hero and they're like, oh, we're going to follow you and blah, blah. He's the leader and stuff. And I was like, he's kind of a lanky looking guy. And really, he just had that smolder face, that kind of like staring off into the distance, serious face. But overall, like, he wasn't very muscular. Like, he wasn't like, and I was like, wow, like, how does that work in their cinema? Because maybe that's just a common thing. Like, I don't know how many Chinese men are super built and just doing the average role nowadays.
Yeah.
So I want to see that, how they carry on those type of roles.
Well, Sammo Hung was an amazing Chinese action star, and he was a fat guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I mean, we had Steven Seagal for a long time too. He was a fat guy.
Well, he became fat over the years.
Fat with all that money. He was making all those VHS releases. What's another one you got on your list?
Okay, this is one that I also got a Criterion release for.
Oh.
This one is 1997's Funny Games.
Oh yeah, you wanted to talk about this.
Oh, I could talk about this film. We could do a whole episode on this film. This is 1997 Austrian film directed by Michael Haneke, who, if you don't know much about Mr. Haneke, he is probably the most revered director alive. It's pretty much that simple. He's one of the very few guys to win 2 Palme d'Ors. He's just never. He makes foreign language films, so he doesn't get mentioned like a Stanley Kubrick or a Steven Spielberg, but he's up there for critical acclaim. But this film was his take on the thriller genre. It's basically a home invasion film where 2 young, we'll say teenage kids, come into a family's vacation home and tortures them with sadistic games. There was an American remake in 2007 starring Naomi Watts and Tim Roth, which is also directed by Michael Haneke. It's almost a shot-for-shot remake. So it's, if you don't want to read subtitles, it's definitely a good film to watch if you want to see the remake. Actually, I think the acting's a little stronger in the remake. But this film, it's It's a 10 out of 10 film for me. It's one of my favorite films ever made, and I was happy to get a Criterion release that was remastered in 2K, so it's the best quality
2K.
ever. Yeah.
Oh, isn't it usually 4K? I think they do it
You'll get some remasters in 4K, some in 2K. It's
Oh,
not that huge of a difference. Um, but this film, it basically deconstructs the whole genre. Um, you'll see films like Scream, you know, try to deconstruct a slasher. This is done in a purely artistic, very deep way that I've never seen since or before done in such a competent way. And it's really a film about making films wrapped up in a home invasion plot. Like I said, I could talk about this film for a whole podcast, um, but you have to make it through the first act. The first act is on purpose made very slow, and this is Haneke really pointing at the fact that a lot of these thriller movies, the first act's just a bunch of bullshit, and the character development is poor, and it's him taking shots at American film. But after that, it gets crazy. But it's a brilliant film. If you've never seen it, you should go see it right away. This and check out the remake too. They're both amazing films.
I'll give it a rewatch since you said it's a 10 for you. I'll give it a rewatch and let you know what I
Did you watch the
think.
remake or the original?
I think I saw the remake. I didn't know there was an original. I think when I first saw it. So yeah, I'll see if I can acquire. Hey, do you know if it is it on Prime or is it on Netflix or something?
I'm
The
not
original.
sure. Like I said, I just was happy to get my hands on the best quality
Hmm.
copy out there.
Okay. Well,
But
I'll
it
look for which one I can get.
Yeah, yeah, definitely suggest checking it out. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking in this film, which is what it's
That's
really known for.
I remember that.
Um, but if you go into it not if you go into it just for a purely movie going experience without wanting to think deep about it, it's kind of it's strange, and you're not really understanding why it's done. When you start analyzing the film, it's one of those things that kind of kicks you in the head. It's like, oh man, it's amazing how he did this, and I see
Hmm.
exactly the point he's trying to convey. Every single shot, everything done in this film is like a Kubrick film. Everything is for a reason. There's nothing that is wasted.
And you're talking about the remake was the one with Naomi Watts or something, right?
Yeah, Naomi Watts and Tim Roth, who I love Tim Roth, and he's a great actor.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one I saw, but yeah, I'll look for the original. I don't think at the time I knew that it was a remake.
And Michael Pitt plays one of the killers, or one of the home invaders, and he
Hmm.
does a brilliant job in the remake as well. So this is one of those films that, since it's made by the same director, you could watch it either way, whatever you prefer.
Okay. All right. Let's see. All right, so then I will move on to my last one, which if I didn't have Spies in Disguise, I would have just followed up your heroes with this one. It would have made a little more sense. Um, Ip Man 4, which I love this series, and I have been waiting for a sequel, and I didn't know it was even coming out. I don't keep on top of the news and stuff with all this stuff, but I've seen one, two, three, four. There is a Grandmaster Z that came out before this one that ties in after three, I believe, and there's also a another one that does not star Donnie Yen as these other ones do, called The Grandmaster, I believe, and that was just a whole different cast, and I did not see that one. I love Donnie Yen too much in this role as Ip Man, and it was, I mean, Ip Man 4 was not. It was pretty formulaic. It was not very much original on its own. In each in each one there is the Chinese are being oppressed in one way or another, and Ip Man is the chosen warrior every so often by way of situation, or as the film needs him to be. And the fighting scenes are just brilliant. If there's nothing else, like if you just love martial arts, he's great. Like Donnie Yen in this character is so enjoyable. And if you love Bruce Lee, he does make an appearance, not as himself because he's dead, uh, but because the story takes place in 1977 and Bruce Lee was a student of Ip Man, famously. He is there and portrayed by a guy who does look like him, but sort of looks like he's maked up as well. Like he's got some cheek stuff going on. He also looks a bit taller than Bruce Lee was. He doesn't take off his shirt for the women fans out there. I'm guy fans too. Yeah. Um, I was hoping there would be a shirtless scene, like just to see like if he was really, did he work out for the scene, or was he just kind of like a skilled guy they got? But there is no shirtless scene. He doesn't get clawed across the chest. He he's wearing the typical kind of 70s garb. He's got a turtleneck and a jacket on, and he fights a guy in the alley. But there's that's it. So if you're hoping for more Bruce Lee than that, look at the title of the movie. It's not Bruce Lee 4, it's Ip Man 4. So there is there's more than a couple Ip Man fight scenes and just that one Bruce Lee. But it does take place during the time when he does his famous expo at the at that arena in San Francisco and whatnot. And it's a good story. Like I said, if you're a fan of the series, this is a must watch. You have to see this one. If you don't know anything about the series, do not start with this one. You will regret it, and you will not probably see the other ones unless you just love the fight scenes, because the story just is so formulaic, and the enemy, the oppressor in this one is America. And I was telling my wife when I came home, I was like, oh, they should have released Ip Man 4 on July 4th. And this would have been a hit. Because all the white actors in this movie are just Scott Adkins is one of them. If you know some of these Chinese movies, Scott Adkins does. He's an amazing martial artist, but he just does like a lot of his own stunts in some of these scenes and stuff. And he's just the bad guy. And the way they do this dubbing with English people, with American, it's hilarious. And the white people are just hilarious in this movie. And they are just the worst people in the world, which at one point was true. Many times in history, if we look back, white people were the worst. But in this movie, it's just like, I don't think there was a single redeeming white person. There wasn't even an apology from anyone. And I think at least in the first movie, when Japan was the oppressor, I want to say there were maybe not actually. Maybe this has been a common theme where they don't even give them a space to apologize to the Chinese. But China is best. It's a very pro-China movie. There's a lot of pooping on the scenes on America and stuff in this. So if you can put that aside, don't take your veteran grandfather to the movie because he's going to hate you for it. But it's really good. I love these movies, and it's just like the epicness of these fights and the meetings between Ip Man and these people and the philosophy of the things they talk about. It's very beautiful in that way. But if I were to put it in my order of my favorites, this is supposed to be the final in the series. It's supposed to be. But as I said in my review, this is already doing better than Rise of Skywalker in China. A billion people over there are going to decide. But, there could possibly be some spin-off series created after this, but I don't know if Donnie Yen's going to do it. If I put it in order of my favorites, I'd go one I've seen multiple times. Just wonderful. I loved it. The second would be Grandmaster Z. No. The second would be, gosh, yeah, I really like Grandmaster Z. Grandmaster Z, and then 2, and then 3, and 4 would be last. That's why I'm saying don't. If you if you like this series, if you know of it, then yeah, definitely see it. But if you want to get into it, start with one. If you love one, go through them, in chronological order, and I think you'll like it. Tony Jaa's in one. Tony Jaa is in Grandmaster Z, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's on the cover, but don't wait up for him. He shows up. He shows up in the movie in the beginning, towards the beginning for a couple minutes, and then at the end, in an end fight for like 6 minutes or so. He's not a critical character. He plays an assassin role. But yeah, I was like, whoa, Tony Jaa. And then, there goes Tony Jaa. Where's Tony Jaa? He's gone.
Well, Donnie, that guy doesn't age either, does he?
Gosh, if you look back, I thought so too when I saw this. But then they actually show, the Ip Man series is very notorious for showing clips to help people catch up, sort of, in the beginning. But Ip Man 4 and this one, they didn't show it in the beginning. They showed it at the very end as like an homage to the rest of the series or something, sort of. Not an homage, but as a way to like kind of remember where we came from. Remember the other movies. Go see them. And he looked super young.
So is Ip Man is that your favorite Donnie Yen film?
Oh, absolutely. Ip Man is my favorite Donnie Yen series. Not that I've seen that many, but how many other series of Donnie Yen?
Iron Monkey is my favorite.
Oh, I liked Iron Monkey. I forgot about that one.
I love Iron Monkey so much. It's one of my favorite kung fu movies ever.
Oh man, it's been so long since I've seen that. Now I want to do a Donnie Yen tribute Donnie Yen marathon.
I never saw the sequel of Iron Monkey, but I love the original.
There was another movie, a Donnie Yen movie that just came to mind. He plays this kind of like hardened cop, and I want to say it was something like he has to stop it's like some kind of like stop the bomb before it explodes the city kind of thing. Like, I don't think it does exactly, but something like that, where he was kind of like a shady cop turned good. That wasn't a bad movie. It was a different role for him.
Yeah.
Where, opposed from Ip Man.
Yeah, his early stuff was good too. Drunken Tai Chi and Tiger Cage.
He was in Rogue One. He was one of the last Jedi in Rogue One.
Oh yeah, I think I remember reading about that. Yeah.
Yeah, he liked his role in that too. Sort of Ip Man. It was like Ip Man all over again. Ip Man 1. Ip Man Rogue One.
I mean, and he's going to be in a new Mulan, isn't he?
Is he? I haven't watched the trailer. I have to. I don't cover my ears like a weirdo and go blah, 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 blah in the theater, but I do close my eyes and not watch these things. I didn't know.
Yeah, I think I heard that somewhere.
Does he play the love interest?
I think he plays one of the commanders.
Oh, okay. That seems.
He's too old. I mean, because like Mulan's like 15. That'd be kind of creepy.
I mean, not to poop on Asian culture. It also takes place thousands of years ago or something.
Yeah, that would be normal.
So it seemed perfectly fine. Yeah. Right up their alley. All right, everybody. That is our show. First episode of the year in the bag. We got a lot of good stuff coming up this month. A few interviews already scheduled. And we have a special episode coming up the week before the Oscars. We'll let you know more about that as the podcasts come out. We hope you will join us next week. I'm Raj. Have a good night.
And this is David. Have a great time of day.